We're BulkyBananas, a team consisting of 6 industrial design students from the University of Ljubljana, Academy of Fine Arts and Design in Slovenia. Every day, humanity faces numerous challenges which noticeably impact economic, socio-ethical and environmental aspects of our lives. One of them is the increasing amount of food waste, which is not only a global but also a local issue. In Slovenia alone, more than 140 tons of food waste was thrown away in 2019, among which almost 40% were edible and could be avoided or at least reduced with the right treatment. The average Slovenian resident throws away approximately 160 euros worth of food per year. On the other hand, poverty and hunger are continuously present in our society, resulting in concerning 8% of Slovenians who are not able to afford a proper meal at least once every other day.
Due to these alarming facts, tackling food waste in our local context has become our mission for this challenge and beyond.
Our research.
As the food waste is a part of a complex systemic issue, we gathered insights from various stakeholders as holistically as possible. We cooperated with farmers, distributors, retailers, grocery store employees, restaurant owners, hospital kitchen staff, volunteers, the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Food, and the Ministry of Environment and Spatial Planning, and utilized diverse research methods. By conducting multiple service safaris, we immersed ourselves into the lives of volunteers by delivering donated food surplus from retailers to people in need ourselves. This way, we could better grasp the inconveniences volunteers are facing and the daily struggles of the people in need.
Insights.
Among the insights we gathered from diverse stakeholders, 2 findings stood out throughout our research. Large amounts of edible food are discarded in the second part of the food supply chain because of a lack of available options for organized food donations, especially outside the cities, and the lack of volunteer workforce. Some donors, such as retailers, actually wish to donate greater amounts of food but are limited with the capabilities of NGOs logistically tackling the donations. The amount of food waste could be reduced by enabling and optimizing food donations, since the current food donation system is far from optimal. After recalling the food recovery hierarchy, where feeding people in need is evidently the second most sufficient step in reducing food waste, we decided to further focus on optimizing food donations comprehensively. Our problem statement is thus intentionally broad and reads: how might we better utilize edible food waste generated in the second half of the supply chain by systemically optimizing food donations?
Let's see how the current food donation system functions and which difficulties stakeholders face.
Retailers.
Retailers donate food that is about to expire soon and has been previously discounted but not sold. This applies not only to dairy products, but also bread, pastry, fruits and vegetables, warm meals and other food products which would no longer be fresh the next day. So what are their pain points? Retailers wish to donate greater amounts of unsold food, but are limited with the NGO's distributive capabilities. Not being able to donate up to 2% of annual turnover, they cannot take advantage of the tax relief donations bring. Bureaucratic process for food donations is time-consuming and complex. Food donations take place after the stores close, which means that employees have to wait after their work hours for the volunteers to pick up the food.
Non-governmental organizations.
Humanitarian organizations take care of distribution of the donated food to the recipients. This is either done by delivering food to the recipient's doorstep or by handing out food at an NGO storage space pickup location. Their pain points are inconsistent documentation of donated food among various retailers, which is almost never digitalized. Inconvenient timing of food donations, since the delivery takes place late at night after the stores close. Inexistent digital tools supporting food donations. Volunteers are not informed in advance about the amount of donated food and cannot allocate their workforce accordingly. Time-consuming preparation of packages for the recipients, not really knowing their dietary needs. Disputable hygienic standards while handling with the food. A considerable surplus of bread and pastry left over after donations. Unoptimized navigation to various recipients, since volunteers do not know their locations in advance. Lack of financing, which causes lack of appropriate infrastructure and technical equipment. After registering at the social services and being recognized as eligible for food donations, recipients receive food once or twice a week. Food is picked up at NGO storage spaces late in the evening, unless the recipient is ill or disabled, in which case it is delivered to their doorstep. The problems they face are inconvenient timing of food donations. Food donations are connected with social stigma. The donated food is not healthy. Recipients cannot be picky about the food they receive. And sometimes recipients are forgotten about since volunteers do not track their own activities. FUTR za JUTR is a combination of smartphone app and a self-service food locker. The application streamlines the communication between the stakeholders, whereas the food lockers make pickup points more accessible for users and decrease the volunteers' workload. By introducing self-service pickup point model for food donations, they do not depend solely on volunteers and can be expanded to other areas, which consequently decreases food waste.
Let's see how it works.
The process starts with donors, in our case grocery stores. At the end of the day, an employee collects the surplus food and writes it off. The data from the retailer internal software system is then synced with our application through a series of APIs to eliminate the need for additional paperwork. The food is then delivered to an allocated self-service food locker, which is located nearby. The store employee enters the code which is generated by the app. The food items are arranged in separate compartments according to their category and food safety standards. After the food items are safely stored in the lockers, the recipients are alerted about available food through the app notifications. They can see available food items and locations of filled lockers. Users who can access the pickup point location themselves do the following steps. At the self-service pickup point, they use the app to generate a single-use access code to unlock the storage space. The code is put in using a dial pad integrated in the food locker and unlocks all the compartments. These stay unlocked for 3 minutes. During this time, the recipient can choose whichever food they desire. The app notifies them 30 seconds before the 3 minutes are over, and they can extend the time if needed. After that, the app prompts them to provide feedback about the taken food items and sanitary conditions of the locker.
If the recipients can't access the pickup point by themselves due to disability, illness, or lack of transport means, the app offers them the option to order the food and get it delivered by a volunteer.
In this case, volunteers are notified that one of the users requested delivery. One of them picks up the food at a chosen location and is then guided to the recipient's location. The recipient is then notified that the volunteer is on the way, and the volunteer delivers the food to their doorstep. Simple, right? You might have some questions, so we'll try to answer them here. Why would the donors want to deliver the food themselves? One of the reasons is cost reduction. We estimate that if the lockers are placed in the donor's immediate vicinity, the cost of delivery are much lower than the cost of food waste disposal. Furthermore, retailers are eligible for tax relief for donated food for up to 2% of annual turnover. Participating in such a project would also improve their public image, presenting them as socially and environmentally conscious enterprise. Where would the lockers be located? The ideal location for the lockers would be in the donor's immediate vicinity and no further than a 5-minute ride. Focusing on Ljubljana, the best locations for food lockers are the 4 major shopping mall districts where various donators are present. Similar analysis of best places could be done for other cities if the project would expand. What if one person takes all the food? Besides the fact that taking the entire quantity would be extremely heavy, it would also be extremely illogical. We believe that people would eventually get used to taking only as much as they need due to the fact that the donated food is close to its expiration date, making it useful only for a short time. Who would take care of the infrastructure maintenance? The Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry and Food would support the R&D of a mobile application, while upholding the sanitary standards of the food lockers would be the NGO's responsibility.
The future.
While developing our concept, we also looked into the future and prepared a roadmap how our project could be upgraded. First option is the extension of eligible recipients. As the project progresses, the eligibility could be expanded to other groups such as students, pensioners, and not just people in need. In the first stage, everyone could be involved, but people able to pay would be requested to pay a small fee to cover the maintenance of the infrastructure. Of course, if the project's target audience would be expanded, so should the types of donors to ensure enough food for everyone and reduce the food waste even more. After, retailers, farmers, and food production companies could be included. In the last stages, restaurants, hospitals, and households could also be introduced and start to share their food surplus.
Thank you for your attention and for giving us the opportunity to participate in this year's edition of the challenge.